Hello, my name is David Peterson, and this is the Art of Language Invention. Today's episode, Conlang types. Often I get questions from conlangers just starting out, what do I do to even begin my first language? What's the very first step? Before you even set pen to paper, there's one important question you need to answer, which is, why the heck am I doing this? Now that may seem kind of trivial, but it's actually going to be very, very important and will help to determine some crucial factors of the language you end up creating. One initial question you're going to want to ask yourself is who in an ideal world is going to be using your language? If it's just you, we call that a personal language. If you want a language that you and your friends are going to be able to speak with each other that nobody else is going to understand, we call that a secret language or a stealth language, also a STEALTHLANG. If, for example, you want your language to be spoken by the entire world and everybody is going to learn it and use it and speak it fluently, we call that an auxiliary language or an AUXLANG. If you're creating a language for a fictional race of people, we call that a fictional language. Each one has different goals depending on its type. So, for example, if you're creating a stealth language and you want to be really crafty and it sounds something like, moi SHLIKE-US Tommyoi, somebody's going to be walking by and say, dude, you like Tommy? Not very sneaky. You got to do more stuff with it. Otherwise, you're not fooling nobody. These type of languages intersect with another set of categories we use to discuss conlangs. For example, there are artistic languages, or ARTLANGs, which are created for artistic purposes. Then there are ENCODED, or engineered languages, which are usually created to test out some specific linguistic quirk maybe not found in natural languages. Then within these, there are varying subtypes that further subdivide each category. For example, take Okuna, Matt Pearson's naturalistic ARTLANG. A naturalistic conlang tries as nearly as possible to imitate the quirks and idiosyncrasies of natural languages found here on Earth. Bill Spruill's Yeshkur, on the other hand, is a parody language, or JOKELANG. It's a bureaucratic language intended to make business interactions needlessly complex so that business never actually gets done. Both Okuna and Yeshkur are intended to be art pieces, kind of appreciated for a certain aesthetic value. But you can imagine how, based on their vastly different goals, verb conjugation might be very, very different in one language versus the other. Something else to consider before setting pen to paper is how is your language going to be expressed or encoded? For example, most languages on Earth are spoken languages, so if you're going to create a spoken language conlang, one early step is going to be figuring out what sounds are going to be a part of your language and which aren't. However, there are other types. For example, there are sign languages. And moving beyond Earth, there are also languages that you can imagine that are just written down. Maybe they're just pictographic, maybe there's something different. Or you could do something like what Dennis Moskowitz did. Dennis Moskowitz envisioned a type of alien that has a great big green globular head with a gigantic eye, no ears or mouths, and they have 49 tentacles that kind of wave down below them. And 7 of these tentacles are short and they can be used kind of like as arm-like appendages. Anyway, so he created a language for these beings called rikchiks that use the small 7 tentacles to do signed glyphs in a way. He had to create an entire sign system just to be able to create a language for the beings. If you're going to create a truly alien, you might need to do something similar. Ultimately, the goal is for you to figure out why your language exists in the first place. If you don't, you risk creating something that's going to try to satisfy vastly different goals. Like, for example, a STEALTHLANG that's really easy to learn, or my first language, which was a billion shades of awful. Anyway, if you have a clear understanding of why you're doing what you're doing, most of the choices that you have to make down the line will probably be made for you. That's it for this episode. If you have a question you'd like for me to answer on the show, leave a note in the comments or email me at djpquery@gmail.com. If you'd like to see more videos like this one, feel free to subscribe. Thanks for watching. Yeah, who's my good boy? Who's my good little squirrel? Who's my good little man?